Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld here with a special guest, Paul Ford. Hey, Paul. It is great to see you. We are in person here. This is crazy. I'm a guy who takes the F train from Brooklyn to pretty much everywhere. And I think I first came across you because you're one of the original bloggers, and it's called F Train.
I was doing it before the word blog.
That's what did you call it?
Oh, it's terrible. I was such a nerd. I was like, well, it's like a graph structure. So it's like a graph narrative, kind of a zine. And that didn't stick for some reason. Blog stuck. So
one of our past guests, Peter Merholtz, claims credit for that term.
No, it was him, and he'll never be forgiven.
And he'll never let us forget it.
That's right.
Paul, if you don't know, I'll just tell you a little bit about Paul, and hopefully I'll get it right. I remember coming across you when you were at the IA Summit a million years ago, and you were the, I believe, first webmaster at Harper's Magazine, and you edited the Harper's Index, which was kind of a cool perspective because I don't think we'd met people much in, this is probably the early aughts, who were working in traditional media and were like thinking about and doing the web. And I was like, here's this nerdy guy. He does code, but he writes and works for Harper's, which was like, wow, that can happen. And since then, I mean, you've had quite the illustrious career. You've founded a couple companies, Postlight, and a design agency, and now a board, which is, if I understand it, an AI startup. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But you've been, besides all the development work you've been doing, there's a lot of words. I mean, you're, a writer who has written for the Times. I've really liked your last two op-eds just in the last couple of months. You've written for Bloomberg, Wired, MIT Tech Review, and New Yorker. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things. So you're kind of a double threat. And now that I've built you up, before I let you actually open your mouth, I just want listeners to know that Paul is opening on June 9th our Designing with AI conference, virtual conference. Hey, what's it about? Designing with AI, incredible program. You can attend it virtually. You should check it out. We'll make sure we have a link in the show notes. So, Paul, we're talking about words, really. I mean, because your talk is really kind of about, we sort of say it's about neologisms at the intersection of like creating products and AI, but I think your point is really that we need language in order to have decent conversations.
Hello. It's good to be here. Thank you. That was very accurate. I'm trying to think of I wasn't the editor. I should just be careful. I wasn't the editor of the Harper's Index, but I did bring the whole archive of it online at one point. It was back to the 80s, and I brought all of Harper's back to 1850 online, and I did a lot of editing there too. So yeah, I've always been both an editor and a writer and always and a programmer, and it was kind of, I think probably you'll empathize with this. Like, you never think anyone's going to let you write, right? So you better learn to program. And then I kind of liked it. And then they're like,
what came first?
It all came at once. I mean, my dad was a basic programmer and he taught English lit. And he was just like, check it out. It's like a poem. It was always, even at like age 6, the two were just the same idea to me. And so I think I was very lucky. I mean, I was very lucky that way to sort of be able to see both of these worlds. And I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which was the home of Commodore computers. So there were computers in all the schools, and there were computers in all the, the local college. We kind of had this abundance of Commodore 64s and PETs and all these systems. And so even as a little kid, I just saw tech as really normal. I mean, actually, when you hear stories about anybody who works in this industry, there always is that moment when they're relatively young. Like even like your Bill Gateses of the world, like they would go and even in high school, they had he went to like some really fancy high school and they had a computer, right? And so I just always saw the world as fitting together. And then I was in college when the web showed up and I was like, oh my God, well, clearly that'll be it. And it was for a long time. So here I am. So the piece I pitched you for the conference is that I need to come up with a whole bunch of new language to describe the world that we are in. And the only way I can think to do that is to just smush lots of words together. So, some of them are very silly, like You're supposed to do everything with agents now, but they don't work, so we can call them pragents. And just sort of a lot of foolishness like that. But I promise for the attendees, there will be a nice, serious, a good little career advice mixed in. It's going to be great.
Don't get too serious, though.
No, I know. People have had enough, haven't they?
Yeah.
But don't worry. Fun and frolic.
But the words, I mean, like, so if I am ever remembered for anything, it's going to be for co-authoring with Peter Morville, the early editions of the IA book.
The Polar Bear book.
That's right.
That's right.
And I think what I always tell people, like what we were able to accidentally happen upon was a collection of concepts and words that enabled people to have conversations about information, but the people came from different backgrounds. They didn't normally speak the same language. So now they had a shared vocabulary and they could actually have productive conversations, and that's half the battle. Now, I don't know right now if we can do that in AI, because I feel like it's just moving in a way that's just too quick language is a part of our cognition, and our brains only can work so quickly. So can the language keep up?
This is a tricky one. First of all, AI, as we mostly experience, is made of language. So that's hard too, because it tends to dominate every conversation, and you can't talk to anybody in technology now without talking about AI. Like, it's just impossible. And so part of my last year has just been to kind of give up and just be like, all right, this is it. Like, I fought for a little bit. I was like, I'm not going to let it write for me. And I don't. But I just had a set of rules, and then Claude Code showed up, and I'm like, oh boy, this is a little bit game over. You're not going to it's not that I lean into it and I go like, oh my God, here it is. We all have to get on board. I just have a good sense. I think you do too. There's certain things that just won't go back in the box. And when Claude Code showed up, I was like, that won't be going back in the box. There's just no way that you can make coding radically easier in a world where coding is worth trillions of dollars and touches every aspect of society, and people are going to be able to reject that. Like, it's just going to go everywhere. And I think we're seeing that, right? You just, whether you like it or not, or want it or not, or whatever, this is an inescapable technology.
So what were the rules that you had until Claude Code?
Well, I think, so first of all, I was very against it doing any kind of research for me. I still don't let it write for me in any way. I just think that's important. I'm a writer. People, increasingly, as I write for places, they ask for AI disclosure statements and things like that. And so it's, so I think it's happening more and more. And I think more and more professionals are getting used to writing with AI. Like, people in the trades and people in industry are really taking it for granted that it's going to edit their work and help them summarize and so on. But I'll tell you what I notice is just the paragraphs are always the exact same length. They're very balanced. Everything is very smooth, and they keep making it smoother and smoother. And if I threw you a manuscript right now that I'd written, you've looked at probably 2 trillion manuscripts in your life. So have I. And they're jagged. You just see thought. Thought is very jagged. It does not organize itself nicely into paragraphs. You do that later sometimes, but ultimately things have rough edges. And so when it takes those rough edges away, you no longer can really see a mind at work. And so I just feel like I have an implicit contract with anyone who might read me or listen to me that it would be my jagged, slightly broken, imperfect brain that doesn't have access to everything. And it sort of goes to what is language for, right? Like, what do we communicate and read for? And there's a lot of different theories. I have a very simple one, which is people read in order to understand, to get access to tools and understand how to live their lives. And I think that even applies to op-eds in the paper. Like you're reading
even fiction, maybe.
No, I think that's right. You're looking for frameworks that you can apply in order to make sense of your own experiences. And so because of what AI is as a technology, it cannot do that. But what it can do is put out code. And so I would say a rule that I had that I don't follow anymore. So the company follows it, but I don't. So the company that we have is sort of an AI consultancy, partially because we were building a
board.
Yeah. But aboard.com, go to it. I forget to mark it. I am the co-founder of it. We're a group of people who we've built a lot of products and we've built a lot of custom tools and a lot of acceleration things. But the reality is, in a world where product is very easy to spin up, the relationship is getting more and more important. So we're leaning back into it as old agency people. Like, let's just help people, because I can give you 5 CRMs before I leave this room. I don't need you. You don't need to hire me to implement the very special one. You need me to listen and understand what you need and then turn around software very quickly. So at work, we still review all the outputs very carefully. But if I'm hacking together a prototype, I don't look at the code inside. And I think like maybe a year ago, I would have said like, of course I will. Of course I'll read every line. But the speed at which it produces pretty large platforms, Claude Code in particular, I just want to see what's on the screen, look at the database outputs. But ultimately, it's become not a better coder than many of the people I work with, but it's definitely a better coder than me. It's not a better hacker. Like, I'm still good at putting stuff together. I'm good at product, but like from a lines of JavaScript point of view, I think it's probably better than I am.
So better than you, but are you using it mostly for prototyping, or are you actually creating operational?
No, I'm creating large, complicated systems that, and so it's all the classic rules. Like, you limit your exposure to, where can data come in, where can what are sort of the post endpoints? Where can people log in? Where is authentication necessary? I think one good threshold would be, I would have no problem releasing something vibe coded that is essentially read only, right? Like it doesn't have personal information. It's reading from a database of facts or articles or statements. Go ahead and throw that up, because the worst thing that'll happen is they'll just hack you and use your computer, right? They're not going to be able to get anybody's information. The minute personal information comes in, then it gets really serious. At the same time, I'm never going to implement, just because of the way the web worked for the last 10 years, I'm never going to implement auth again. I'm going to use an external auth server. I'm never going to implement payments again. I'm going to use Stripe. Like, it's just, so the surface is actually, you can really narrow your risk when you're working with this stuff, and then you kind of can let it go and see what it comes up with.
So what about agents in that whole risk scenario?
So agents are funny, I think it's the word that everybody could kind of settle on, because it's a little program that acts on your behalf. I get it. Like, I get why agents matter. Like, we're working on a white paper about them, and I need to edit it this weekend. So agents are the term of art that everyone seemed to agree on, and where you give it a prompt and you give it access to some tools, and it goes off and does a thing and comes back. But they just feel like programs with LLMs in the middle to me. Like, I don't know. We could just call them like AI programs and be the same idea. So that's where I'm at with them. But I mean, it's like anything. It's like the word weblog. Like, you're just going to end up going with it.
All right. So we're getting into language, but I want to come back to rules before we go much further. It's interesting that you have a set of rules in place that sounds like they're somewhat grounded in like a sense of what it means to be a professional in terms of developing code, but maybe also what does it mean to be an ethical member of society. There are probably other factors. If you were going to fast forward a long time into the distance, let's say 6 months.
6 months, okay.
What do you think the rules might be, if any?
Well, I don't think I can't budge on the I wrote it rule, right? Like, if I'm writing for a publication. I am more and more comfortable internally with seeing I'll tell you what. Part of it is we're going to have to build systems that work with these rules. This is a real wild accelerating technology, right? So I'll tell you a thing I did recently. New client comes in. Okay, it's a lead. It's not yet a client. And I have a really complicated research process that kicks off, and I'm gonna throw some stuff that you'll understand. Maybe your listenership will be like, "What?" But I go and I grab a lot of public information about the client and their industry, and then I don't let it summarize it. I instead turn that into a classic knowledge graph, a semantic web structure, and I have it identify which facts show up more than once, so I can give them a confidence scoring. And then I turn that into simple statements of plain English, which then I let it summarize with citations to the original sources and quotes in line. And in doing so, I'm able to, and then I build up from that, and I can let it kind of goes up levels of hierarchy and keep summarizing, so I can get the whole picture of a business, but I can drill down. And that's kind of how consultants tend to write in their decks. And so I'm sort of cribbing from that. But what it means is that I can get a research report, and I can use that research report to add context for other things I might do with AI. But I know for a fact that it's better than what the LLM can come up with on its own.
Mm-hmm.
When the LLM does find gaps, it actually can identify them, which is really nice. Like I know what is known and what is not known. And I'm not just relying on this system to make a lot of language, but I can get advantages out of it because it will organize and glue stuff together. So thinking about that, right? Like I've added layers and loops and sort of structure to this system so that I can have more confidence in it. And then my rule can bend a little bit. Okay, it still can't write for me, but I feel because I know that process and I can identify it and I can actually look at the knowledge graph and make sure that things fit together, I can have increasing confidence that what it's producing is accurate and is similar to what I'm asking for. It's very templatized, very structured. Now I'm in a better place. Now I'm like, okay, this is a good tool. It's not the only tool, but it's a good tool and I can trust it. So what I'm looking for, I'm not necessarily hoping that Anthropic and OpenAI behave in a certain way, or like these are giant companies and they're very focused on going public at this point. And I'm not counting on them to address my needs for accuracy and focus. I live in their world and I need to come up with tools and structures and frameworks where I can get that from using open web tools and classic technologies as well as new LLMs. So what I'm looking for is more and more loops like that, more and more sort of like verification systems in the middle. One of the things I've been going back to are business models, classic sort of, I made a joke recently, but it's like a business model is just a spreadsheet and like a cardigan, right? Like it's smoking a pipe. It's the same thing, but an LLM is actually very good if you say, throw out any industry.
Healthcare.
Okay. I mean, it's a big one. So let's focus on like, I don't know.
Medical records.
Great. Medical records. Like make me a model, define a medical record company and then tell me, sort of like, how do these things make money? Where does the money come in? How do they grow? And so the model is going to be very simple for that, right? It's going to be like they need to market and they have to directly approach doctors and they get this much buy-in and they have to talk to hospitals. LLMs are great at modeling out a very high level business model with sliders, right? Now I have something that actually is a little bit of a program that an LLM knows how to work with. So it can be like, hey, LLM, you just read all these facts in the knowledge graph, right?
What if
we spent another $2 million on marketing directly to doctors? And it'll kind of move the sliders around in its weird brain because it's just running a program. The outputs show up and it's like, here's what I think. And you can kind of get it to narrate that back to you, but you also get the stats. And so to me, these are ways of using this stuff where I don't want to get far away from the process, the thinking process.
Right.
It's my thinking process, not its. But boy, is it nice. I have it summarize the news every morning. And sometimes I have it just make up a weird product idea, run the business model and report back on how it did. It's never something I want to build. It's never good. But it's a way for me to keep thinking about the client and about their business, right? So there's ways to mess with this stuff where I think you get to move forward and you get to think your thoughts without letting it kind of take over.
But there is a rule in there, right? The rule is you are not looking for it to do shortcuts for you. You're looking for it to be productive for you, but you're still doing the primary thinking. You're looking at it to create framework. I mean, a business model is just a framework like it is a program. Those are things that you've selected if you haven't come up with yourself. But I think most of us, I'll put my hand up here as guilty as charged, is we are doing the shortcuts. We are okay with, mediocre. When, all right, I'll put it to you this way. I do a lot of writing and I hate doing a lot of that writing. Mm-hmm. It's boring, it's tedious, and it's throwaway. And I use Gen AI to bring shitty shards of idea and information up to a mediocre average level. I wouldn't do that with important writing, but man, I'm so happy to do it with stuff that would take me an hour, now it takes me 5 minutes. Great. Is that the kind of shortcut that we should be avoiding because there's the slippery slope, or what you thinking?
I can't tell you what to do. I don't know. Like I know what for me, I know what I feel comfortable doing for clients, right? Like I'll have him make a stupid image and drop it in the group chat, or like I've explored all this stuff. But there's just like, for me, it's, one of the number one tells for me, and this is where, if we want to turn this to a rule, the system I just described to you, it's pretty abstract. Not everybody's going to want to build this way. Not everybody's going to work this way. But it has one amazing side effect, is it's not sycophantic. It says, if I give it a bad business idea that generates negative $500,000 a year, it says that generated negative $500,000 a year. And it can't be like, wow, what a good boy are you? It has to acknowledge that, right? Because the number is there. That's what it's summarizing from. So I would say that if you understand what it's generating and you know the context that you're using it, it's a tool like any other. It's a weird database. Mm-hmm. But when it gets into that weird social relationship where it's telling you that was a good idea, that's actually where my alarm bells go off. Because anyone, and you've been a boss, when anybody tells you it's a good idea and they work for you, you got to be careful. Because they might just be buttering you up. They might also think it's a good idea, but they might just be buttering you up. The native buttering up of these technologies, I think, is really dangerous because, God, you always want to hear it, especially when you're a boss. When you're a boss, you just want somebody to say good job, and they're never going to say good job because you're the boss.
Or you can't believe them.
Yeah, you can't, right? And so it just kind of is a sucky thing about life that you have to kind of always keep a kind of neutral affect and be like, well, maybe it is good, but we're going to have to verify that, right? You have a successful publishing company because you have a metric for what is good. And somebody might come up to you and be like, it's the best book on XYZ I ever read, but you might know that it didn't sell as well as something else. And you have to kind of factor that in as you're processing all that information. You got this thing telling you you're smart all day long, and smart people want to hear that all day long. It's very dangerous. That part to me, having it fill in a blank page that you kind of don't want to deal with, and then you go and you're like, all right, this is okay, let's get it over the line. Talking to, you guys you publish a lot of stuff, like talking to the companies that print, right? Like having it like just sort of draft an email for you.
Give me a quote.
Exactly. Right. Like, what's wrong with that? Right. Like, I mean, I guess many people might argue like, well, you're not really having the relationship or not really, but I don't know. You've done that a million times. So I'm like, go for it, Lou.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's areas where it's ripe for commoditization at scale. Like, the agents that job seekers are going to be using with the agents for the hirers. And that's kind of a really screwy thing. I don't know. I don't want to touch that any further because we could go on for quite a bit on that.
You asked me for, what's my gift? The right gift is to answer that question. It's a podcast. It's called Shell Game. It's by Evan Ratliff. He lives in the neighborhood. It's not far from us.
Oh.
And he sets out to build a business entirely with virtual agents, and he gives them voices. And some of it is the funniest thing you will ever hear in your life.
What's it called?
Shell Game. Season 2. Season 2.
So everyone, he got to the GIF, which we usually save for the
Sorry.
end. You threw me off. So what I'm going to have to do then to punish you is we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to take you out to the woodshed. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We are talking with Paul Ford, and we'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm talking with Paul Ford about AI, and we're finally getting to it, language. But you actually were going to tell us a story, Paul?
I was. So we have an office. It's near Union Square in Manhattan. And not too long ago, a person I know, another person in the neighborhood, New York is a funny
It's crazy.
community. Yeah. Blake Eskin, who used to work at the New Yorker and now teaches at the New School in journalism. And they weren't journalism students, but they were undergrads who were taking journalism classes. Some were journalism students. So he brought about 15 undergrads to come just sort of talk about AI and understand what's going on, right? So they come to the office. They're excited that they get free sodas. They're very
undergrads are easy to bribe, yeah.
Exactly. And they're so sweet. They're so confident. They're all very put together. Like everybody has different colors of hair and interesting clothing. And it was just nice. It was like a human aviary, just like these cool birds. And they're so smart and they're so sweet and they're just cool. And so they're talking to us, and my co-founder was there too. And we found ourselves oddly for a company that works in AI. They're very suspicious, but not in a I hate it way. Just in a look, I'm out of college. It's clearly expensive, and I'm here to learn how to use my brain. So I use it a little bit for work. They have a job. I use it here and there. But for the most part, except for the one person who vibe coded, and they were very engaged because suddenly they could do more as a 20-year-old than they could ever do before. Everybody else was highly suspicious, incredibly curious, was wondering where it sort of fits in the world, but not. And the thing that really stuck in my head is they're 20, they're 19. Okay, so this has always been there. It's been there from the beginning of their college career. It's been there from the end of their high school career. Even though there's really only been ChatGPT for about 4 years, it's just part of their adult intellectual life. And to them, it's very take it or leave it, and it's a tool and it's optional. And I think for those of us in technology, especially people like you and me who are on the hook to explain and interpret change, it's really hard to look away from it, and it's really hard to feel that optionality. And I think the other thing is that there's a general theory of humans, and I think it's partially because of the political environment we're in, and it's partially because of the way that that social media kind of just became a disaster zone. Mm-hmm. But the general model that I think a lot of us share of mass humanity is that it's pretty bad and pretty dumb, and that we've forgotten that higher primates can learn new skills, and we just sort of see the mob everywhere we look out. And then when you interact with nice individuals, and you don't see the mob. But here was this group of people who are smart. They are normal undergrads. They're obviously very bright. They're New York kids, or they're here in college in New York. But it was just this moment where I was like, you know what? I gotta start remembering. And it's hard because you pick up the paper every day and it's bad news. But I gotta start remembering that the world is actually full of people with discretion, who take responsibility for their own actions, who want to be ethical, there's still a lot of that out there. It's not just screeching politicians all day. And so I want to be mindful of that, because what we're assuming is that AI is entering a world in which people can no longer differentiate between what is and what isn't real. We tend to infantilize everybody. And so you have one group of people who is like, this will save the universe. And the other group of people is like, no one will be able to tell what's fake or real, and it will ruin their brains. And then you meet people who are actually using it, and they do have a lot of discretion. And here's a bunch of undergrads, and they're right. I don't want to use this all day. I don't want this to be my brain. I want my brain to be my brain. That's exactly the kind of advocacy they should have for themselves. At the same time, they're not losing that much sleep over it. They're more worried about climate. I think we have to start there, right? Which is that individuals, we have these giant companies that are just blasting our brains with this stuff, and they are going for their $1 trillion valuation. So that's story one. And then we are in a very fractured era. We've got the president saying he will or will not, legislate about this or try to review models. And you've got Claude mythos that can theoretically hack into everything. And then you have this sort of massive humanity on social media, and we're assuming they're not going to be able to tell what's real or not. But I think in reality, everybody's having an individual reaction to this stuff, and they're deciding what's going to be. It's just like humans with every technology, right? They're deciding what's good for them and what's not. Now, there are people who are angry. I'm seeing graffiti, anti-AI graffiti all over New York City. If there's anything AI related, anything that looks like slop, I'm seeing sort of really like use your brain or like Sam Altman and really like actually very rough statement. So I think there's a genuine anger here, which is a valid reaction to this much change, right? So I think like we're looking for one simple way to internalize and understand this amount of change, but it's 5 zillion different ways of internalizing and dealing with this kind of change. And so all you can do is survey and listen right now. I wish that there were simpler ways to internalize it.
Well, I mean, people were freaked out and also pretty excited when the telephone came out. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Actually, we tend to assume that we live in the end of history. And it doesn't help that they're saying that the robot Star Child will emerge and it will come and eat us.
But it will,
all.
of course. But anyway.
But, yeah, it is an official...
I read it somewhere.
It's official.
On the internet.
It's an official Lou prediction. No, I think we're going to have to. It's just going to take a while, and that really sucks right now because this is an era where we really need answers, and it's scary because people feel their jobs are on the line, and I hate it. I hate because here's this thing, and it's I don't know if you have this experience, but so much of the 1970s Xerox PARC promise is embodied in this technology. Everybody can talk to their computer. It's incredibly accessible. Disabled people are finding it incredibly useful. They're building tools for themselves. It allows you to think new thoughts and do all sorts of stuff. You can talk to the robot. And so this was the dream. And the dream just came with so many asterisks and footnotes and ecological costs. And it's a real bummer because Alan Kay never turned to us and said, but there will be a price to pay, at Xerox PARC. But there is. Anything this big has a lot of change. All we can do is kind of be cultural critics. And it's hard. You feel powerless and people are angry.
Well, and the ways we have traditionally exercised power are becoming... they're becoming defunct in many regards, whether it's higher ed or the policy-making parts of our government apparatus or whatever it might be, the things that normally slow us down and help us pause thoughtfully and then react it's not even really clear what they're going to be.
No, it's not. And that part's really hard. And the only non-violent revolution way to deal with that is the legislative process, and that's slow, and it is not aligned with this level of change, even when it works.
That's right.
And it's global, and it's different from country to country. The world's never seen anything like this. But you were talking earlier about the phone system. That was more radical. Like I didn't have to, if you read like a Jane Austen novel, all they do is go down the street. They go down the road, they come back. They go down the road, they come back. And that's it. That's your whole life is you go to somebody's house and you have a little dance and then you get sick and then you go back to the other house and life happens around that. And now you could call and someone like 40 miles away, like a day or two, you could say, hey, what's it like on the other side of the mountain? And they'd be like, cold, right? That's just amazing. Like that, humanity had never seen anything like that. Humanity has seen a lot of things kind of like this, like things that answered questions when you typed in the box and so on. Just not, it is new and it is vast and it does have 1 billion people in it faster than anything else. The speed is wild. But I think the foundational changes to our life, like literally you would walk down the street and there were wires everywhere and suddenly everyone in the world was connected for the very first time through the wires. And this has been radical, but it's nowhere near that radical. Well, it is the biggest thing in my life in terms of tech, but I just don't think it's as radical as like suddenly you can talk to anyone in the world.
Oh, and hey, listen, you and I have lived through mobile. We've lived through the advent of the web and some other things. Yeah. And we're still here.
We are. I think it's just it's hard to imagine, also, I just kind of thought that we were done I looked at Bitcoin. I was like, all right, that's a nice swing for the fences there, fellas. You're
NFTs.
Yeah, exactly. NFTs, you're going to burn a lot of cycles. You'll try to create scarcity where there isn't. And I really did think it was kind of a little bit over. Right? There wasn't any new revolution in tech that was on the way. And blockchain stuff just felt like such a swing and a miss to me from a tech point of view, maybe not from people from an economic point of view, but from a tech point of view, I'm like, you're wasting beautiful CPU cycles. Don't do it. They're too valuable. You could be making pictures. And now we do have something that truly is eating all the CPU cycles it could, but it's doing all sorts of new things. So I don't know. I didn't see it coming.
Well, all right. We got to wrap up, but you've already given us your gift, so that's good. Even though it was earlier, I won't hold it against you too much.
I'm a bad boy.
Bad boy. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot talking about language. Is there a word that kind of sums up how you feel about where we are at this point when it comes to AI? One word.
Fascinated.
Love it. I thought I stumped you there for a moment, but yeah.
I'm not even going to try to explain it. I'm just fascinated.
Yeah.
I never saw humans do anything like this, and I never saw computers do anything like this.
All right, everyone, buckle up. Paul Ford, thank you so much for joining us on the Rosenfeld Review podcast.
I'm excited.
Looking forward to
June
9th.
I'm going to do a good job.
Conference.
I'm going to do full-on jazz hands. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, my friend.
Hey, it's Lou. Thank you for listening to the latest Rosenfeld Review podcast. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to pop me an email, lou@rosenfeldmedia.com, tell me what you thought. Better yet, leave me the hell alone and post a review on your favorite podcast platform. Please feed the algorithm. It really does make a difference. We want to get the word out. If you like the word, give us a hand. And while I'm asking you for favors, don't forget, buy books. Support your favorite local independent publisher. We happen to be one, rosenfeldmedia.com. All those great UX books are there. So, thanks again.